The research vessel Whisper of Stars was dying. Commander Salis knew this with the same certainty that she knew her own name. The ship shook again as another piece of debris struck the hull, and she gripped her console with all four of her manipulator tendrils to keep from being thrown across the bridge. Around her, the crew worked in desperate silence. They were Velith, a species that had evolved in the warm, gentle oceans of a peaceful world. Their bodies were soft and translucent, with large eyes that could see in the darkest depths and bioluminescent skin that changed color with their emotions. Right now, every Velith on the bridge glowed a sickly yellow, the color of fear. "Status report," Salis demanded, though she already knew what her officers would say. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5, the damage control officer reported. "We have sealed them, but our structural integrity is failing. The escort frigate is gone, Commander." There were no survivors. Salis closed her large eyes for a moment. The frigate had been crewed by 42 Velith, 42 scholars and scientists who had volunteered to protect the research vessel on its mission to study the outer reaches of known space. They had died in seconds when the raiders appeared from nowhere and opened fire. "The Creth ships are holding position," her sensor officer announced. His voice came through his translator as a nervous warble. "They are scanning us." On the main display, Salis could see the 3 Creth warships. They were ugly vessels built for one purpose only: hunting. The Creth were a species of slavers and pirates who prowled the edges of civilized space, preying on the weak. Their ships bristled with weapons, and their hulls were decorated with the markings of their many conquests. The Velith had no weapons. They had never needed them. Their species had evolved without natural predators, and they had spread to the stars as explorers and scientists, not warriors. The concept of violence was almost foreign to them. They understood it existed, of course. They had seen other species fight. But the idea of actually harming another living being was deeply disturbing to the Velith mind. This peaceful nature had served them well for thousands of years. The Galactic Compact, the loose alliance of spacefaring species, generally respected the Velith and left them alone. But out here in the outer reach, beyond the protection of compact patrols, there was no one to help them. "Commander," the sensor officer said, his skin flickering with increased fear, "the Creth are launching boarding craft. 17 minutes until they reach us." Salis felt her heart sink. She had hoped, foolishly, that the raiders might simply take what they wanted from the cargo holds and leave. But she knew better. The Creth did not just steal things. They stole people. The slave markets of the Creth Empire were legendary in their cruelty. Species from across the galaxy were bought and sold there, forced to work in mines, factories, or worse. The Velith, with their gentle nature and inability to fight back, were considered particularly valuable. Easy to control. Easy to break. "All crew members, report to the central chamber," Salis announced over the ship's communication system. "We will face this together." As her crew began to gather, Salis turned to her communications officer. The young Velith was barely out of training, her skin still showing the pale patterns of youth. She looked terrified. "I need you to broadcast a distress signal," Salis told her. "Wide band, all frequencies. Maximum power." The communications officer hesitated. "Commander, we are in the outer reach. The nearest compact patrol station is 3 days away at maximum speed. No one will reach us in time." "I know," Salis said. "But we must try. Someone might hear us." "There is another option," the young officer said slowly. "There is one species known to patrol this sector. But, Commander, they are not part of the compact. They are listed in our databases as a restricted contact species. The early surveys classified their homeworld as extremely dangerous. The Compact Council decided to avoid all contact with them until further study could be completed. Salis knew exactly which species her officer was talking about. Every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy knew about them, even if most had never actually met one. They came from a world of extreme gravity, violent weather, and countless predator species. Their own biology was considered terrifying by galactic standards. They breathed a corrosive gas that would kill most species in seconds. They could survive injuries that would be instantly fatal to a Velith. And they had somehow not only survived their death world, but conquered it. Humans. The species was called humans. "Send the signal," Salis ordered. "Send it on all frequencies, including the ones the humans are known to use. If they hear us, perhaps they will come." The communications officer looked uncertain. "Commander, the humans are Deathworlders. Their species evolved through constant violence and competition. They may be just as dangerous as the Kreth, perhaps more so." Salis looked at the display, where the Kreth boarding craft were growing closer with every passing second. She looked at her crew, gathered in the central chamber, holding each other and preparing for the worst. She thought about the slave markets, about the horrors that awaited them if the Kreth took them alive. "Send the signal," she repeated. "Whatever the humans are, they cannot be worse than what is coming for us now. And if no one answers, at least we will have tried. At least someone will know what happened to us." The communications officer nodded and turned to her console. Her tendrils moved across the controls, programming the distress beacon for maximum range. When she was ready, she looked back at her commander one last time. "Transmitting now," she said. The signal burst out from the whisper of stars, spreading across the void at the speed of light. It carried the universal codes for distress, for emergency, for help needed. It carried the coordinates of the dying ship and the number of souls aboard. It carried the desperate hope of a peaceful species facing extinction. Salis watched the signal propagate on her display, a tiny ripple spreading through the infinite darkness of space. She did not really believe anyone would answer. The universe was too vast, too cold, too uncaring for such miracles. But she had to hope. It was all she had left. The Velith crew gathered together in the central chamber, their bioluminescent skins dim with despair. They held each other and waited for the end. Some whispered prayers to ancient gods. Others simply closed their eyes and tried to remember the warm oceans of their homeworld. The Kreth boarding craft drew closer. The raiders were in no hurry. They knew their prey had nowhere to run. And somewhere in the darkness of space, 7 light minutes away, the distress signal reached a ship that had been running combat drills. A ship crewed by Deathworlders. A ship called the Relentless. Captain Maria Santos was in the middle of her second cup of coffee when the distress signal came through. She was sitting in her command chair on the bridge of the heavy cruiser, SSV Relentless, watching her crew run through their combat drills. The exercises were routine but necessary. Space was dangerous, and Santos believed in keeping her people sharp. The communications officer, a young man named Rodriguez, suddenly straightened at his station. His fingers moved across his console, and his face shifted from bored routine to alert interest. "Captain, we are receiving a distress signal," he announced. "Universal emergency codes. The translation software is processing now." Santa set down her coffee and turned her attention to the main display. The signal was coming from a location about 7 light minutes away, deep in the outer reach. This was the edge of explored space, far from the busy shipping lanes and populated systems of the inner galaxy. It was a strange place to find anyone in trouble. "Let me hear it," she ordered. The translation came through the bridge speakers, rendered into English by the ship's advanced software. The voice was alien, clearly not human, but the desperation in it needed no translation. "This is the Velith research vessel Whisper of Stars. We are under attack by Kreth raiders. Our escort has been destroyed. We have no weapons and no defenses. 17 crew members aboard. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. The raiders are boarding in 15 minutes. Please help us." The message repeated, a loop of fear and hope broadcasting into the void. Santos studied the tactical display. She could see the location of the distress signal, and her computer was already calculating the distance and travel time. 7 light minutes. At maximum acceleration, the Relentless could reach them in just under 12 minutes. It would be close, but it was possible. She could also see the sensor data that the distress signal had included. 3 Kreth hunter-killer ships. Each one was roughly the same size as the Relentless, and each one carried enough firepower to be a serious threat on its own. Together, they outgunned her significantly. Her executive officer, Commander David Chun, was already at her side, looking at the same data. He was a tall man with a calm demeanor that had served him well in many dangerous situations. "Captain, the tactical situation is concerning," he said quietly. 3 against 1, and they have the superior firepower. If we engage, we will be at a significant disadvantage. "I can see that, Commander," Santos replied. "We could call for backup," Chan suggested. "The nearest battle group is about 6 hours away. If we wait for them to arrive, we could handle this with much less risk." Santos did some quick math in her head. 6 hours for the battle group to arrive, plus travel time to the engagement zone. By then, the Velith ship would be a gutted wreck, and its crew would be on their way to the slave markets. If they were lucky, they might still be alive. If they were not lucky, the Kreth might have decided they were too much trouble to keep. 17 people, Santos said. That is how many are on that ship. 17 civilians with no weapons and no way to defend themselves. Yes, Captain. But the risk to our own crew is substantial. We have over 200 people on this ship. Is it wise to put all of them in danger for 17 strangers? Santos was quiet for a moment. She knew Chun was not being cruel or selfish. He was doing his job, which was to present her with all the relevant information and let her make the decision. It was her responsibility, not his, to decide what the Relentless would do. She thought about the voice in the distress signal. She thought about the fear she had heard, the desperate hope that someone, anyone, might answer. She thought about what would happen to those 17 people if no one came. Then she thought about Earth. Humans had come from a world that most species in the galaxy considered a death trap. High gravity that crushed the bodies of weaker species. An atmosphere filled with oxygen, a gas so reactive that it would set some alien biologies on fire. Temperature extremes that ranged from freezing to boiling. And predators. So many predators. For millions of years, humans had been prey. They had been hunted by lions and tigers and wolves. They had been stalked by crocodiles and sharks and snakes. They had survived ice ages and volcanic eruptions and countless other disasters that should have wiped them out entirely. And through it all, they had learned one lesson above all others. Survival was not an individual sport. It was a team effort. Humans had survived because they worked together. They had formed tribes and families and communities, and they had protected each other. When a predator came for one member of the tribe, the others did not run away. They fought back. They picked up rocks and sticks and whatever else they could find, and they stood together against the threat. This instinct had never left them. Even now, thousands of years after they had conquered their death world and spread to the stars, humans still felt that ancient pull. When they heard someone calling for help, something deep in their brains told them to respond. Santos smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Her crew had learned to recognize it as the expression she wore just before she did something violent to someone who deserved it. "Helm, plot an intercept course," she ordered. Maximum acceleration. I want to be on top of those Kreth ships in 12 minutes or less. The helmsman, a young woman named Park, did not hesitate. Aye, Captain. Intercept course plotted. Ready to execute on your command. Chun leaned closer to Santos. Captain, are you sure about this? The Kreth have never engaged human forces before. They may not know what we are capable of. Then it is time they learned, Santos said. They are slavers, Commander. They are going to take those people and sell them like animals. I will not allow that. Not while I have a ship under my feet and weapons to fight with. She keyed the ship-wide communication system. Her voice carried to every corner of the Relentless, to every crew member at their station. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. We have received a distress call from a civilian vessel under attack by Kreth raiders. 3 enemy ships, 17 civilians in danger. We are going in hot. I expect this fight to be short and violent. The Kreth do not know what humans can do. Let us show them. Throughout the ship, alarms began to sound. Crew members ran to their assigned positions. Weapons systems powered up. Shields began to charge. The Relentless transformed from a cruising vessel into a warship ready for battle. Helm, execute, Santos commanded. The main engines roared to life. The Relentless surged forward, accelerating at a rate that would have killed most other species in the galaxy. 40 gravities of thrust pushed the ship toward its destination, but the human crew barely noticed. Their bodies had evolved to handle such stress. Their ships had been built to take advantage of it. In the distance, 3 Kreth warships waited near their helpless prey, completely unaware of what was coming for them. They had hunted across the galaxy for decades, and they had never met a predator more dangerous than themselves. They were about to learn that they had been at the top of the food chain only because they had never encountered the species from Earth. The Relentless raced through the void, its weapons hot and its crew ready. And on the bridge, Captain Maria Santos sipped her coffee and smiled her dangerous smile. The Kreth had made a mistake. They had attacked civilians in a sector patrolled by humans. Now they were going to pay for that mistake. Commander Salis had made peace with her fate. She stood in the central chamber of the Whisper of Stars, surrounded by her crew, and watched the countdown timer on the wall display. Less than 5 minutes until the Kreth boarding craft reached them. Less than 5 minutes until the slavers burned through the airlocks and dragged their people away. The crew had stopped panicking. There was no point anymore. Instead, they held each other and whispered quiet words of comfort. Some of the younger ones were crying, their bioluminescent skin flickering with patterns of grief. The older ones simply waited, their skins dim with acceptance. Salis thought about her home. She thought about the warm oceans of the Velith homeworld, the gentle currents that had cradled her as a child. She thought about her family, her friends, everyone she would never see again. She wondered if anyone would ever know what had happened to them out here in the darkness. Then the sensor alarm screamed, and everything changed. Contact. The sensor officer shouted, his voice breaking with shock. Unknown vessel approaching at extreme velocity. Commander, this is impossible. It is accelerating at 40 gravities. Salis rushed to the nearest display, her heart's pounding. That cannot be correct. No species can survive that kind of acceleration. Check your instruments. I have checked them 3 times already. The readings are accurate. The unknown vessel is moving faster than any ship I have ever seen. It will reach us in less than 2 minutes. On the display, Salis could see a single dot racing toward them. It was coming from the general direction of human-controlled space, which meant only one thing. Her distress signal had been received. The Deathworlders had answered. The Kreth ships had noticed the newcomer as well. Their boarding craft slowed, and the 3 warships began to turn toward the approaching threat. They were confused, she realized. They had never seen anything move like that before. The unknown ship tore into the engagement zone like a meteor with a purpose. It was smaller than the Kreth vessels, angular and brutal, where Velith ships were smooth. Its hull was covered with scars and battle damage, evidence of many previous fights. And it was still accelerating, pushing itself forward with an aggression that seemed almost personal. "They are hailing us," the communications officer announced. "Audio only." "Put it through," Salus ordered. A human voice filled the bridge. It was female, calm and confident, speaking in a language that the translation software rendered into Velith Common. "Attention Velith vessel, this is Captain Maria Santos of the Earthship Relentless. We received your distress signal. Hold your position and do not panic. We are handling the Kreth problem now." Handling the problem, Salus thought. As if 3 heavily armed warships were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. The arrogance of that statement should have been offensive, but somehow, coming from the human captain, it sounded like a simple statement of fact. The lead Kreth ship opened fire first. Plasma bursts erupted from its weapons arrays. Brilliant streaks of superheated matter that would have vaporized the Whisper of Stars in a single hit. They converged on the human vessel from multiple angles, a killing blow that no ship should have been able to survive. The plasma hit the human shields and splashed, away like water hitting a rock. The Relentless did not even slow down. "Their shields," the sensor officer breathed. "Commander, their shields absorbed all of that. How is that possible?" Then the Relentless fired back, and Salus understood why humans were called Deathworlders. Thought the weapons were unlike anything she had ever seen. Kinetic projectiles, solid chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds, tore into the lead Kreth ship. The railguns fired so fast that the sensor display could barely track them. Each hit punched through the Kreth armor like it was nothing, leaving massive holes in the hull. Missiles launched from the human ship, dozens of them at once. They spiraled toward their target in complicated patterns, too fast and too numerous to intercept. Then each missile split apart, releasing clouds of smaller warheads that spread out and hit the Kreth ship from every direction. The lead raider simply came apart. One moment it was a functional warship, and the next it was a cloud of debris expanding into space. The attack had lasted less than 10 seconds. The second Kreth ship tried to flee. Its engines flared to maximum power, and it turned away from the battle, attempting to escape into the safety of deep space. It was a reasonable strategy. The Kreth were pirates, not warriors. They attacked the weak and ran from the strong. No one could blame them for trying to survive, but the Relentless was faster. The human ship changed course and accelerated even harder, its engines burning with an intensity that seemed impossible. It caught up to the fleeing raider in seconds, pulling alongside it like a predator running down prey. Then the weapons fired again, and the second Kreth ship died just as quickly as the first. The third raider broadcast its surrender. The transmission was panicked, desperate, the Kreth commander promising anything if the humans would just stop firing. They would release any prisoners they held. They would pay any ransom. They would never raid in this sector again. The Relentless stopped firing. For a moment, Salus thought the humans were going to accept the surrender. Then the Kreth ship's weapons powered up, just slightly, preparing for one final attack. The human ship fired again. The third raider exploded. The entire battle had lasted 90 seconds. Salus stared at the display, her skin cycling through colors so fast that it became almost white. Around her, the crew was utterly silent. They had just witnessed something that their peaceful species had never imagined possible. A single ship, manned by Deathworlders, had destroyed 3 powerful warships in less than 2 minutes. "Commander," the communications officer said weakly, "the human ship is hailing us again." "Put it through," Salus managed to say. The same female voice spoke, still calm, still confident. If the human captain had just fought a desperate battle against overwhelming odds, her voice showed no sign of it. "Velith vessel, this is Captain Santos. Threat has been neutralized. We are sending a team to assess your damage and provide assistance. Do not be alarmed by our appearance. We look scary, but we mean you no harm." A nervous laugh escaped from one of the younger crew members. After what they had just witnessed, the idea that the humans might look scary seemed like a massive understatement. These creatures had just killed hundreds of Kreth raiders without even breathing hard, but they had also answered a distress call from strangers. They had risked their ship and their lives to save people they had never met. And now they were offering help. "Thank you," Salus transmitted. "We accept your assistance, and we are deeply grateful." There was a moment of silence, and then the human captain replied. Her voice carried something warm that the translation software struggled to interpret. It might have been humor or kindness or something in between. "No problem," Captain Santos said. "It is what we do." The airlock of the Whisper of Stars hissed open, and the humans stepped aboard. Commander Chun led the diplomatic team through the narrow corridor, trying to move slowly and keep his hands visible at all times. He knew that the Velith were a peaceful species, unused to violence and probably terrified after what they had just witnessed. The last thing he wanted to do was scare them further. He failed almost immediately. The Velith who greeted them at the airlock were small, barely reaching his chest. Their bodies were soft and translucent, covered in what looked like a thin layer of gel. Large eyes dominated their faces, and multiple tendrils served as their manipulator limbs. Their bioluminescent skin was currently cycling through shades of yellow and white, which Chun's briefing notes told him indicated extreme fear. When the Velith saw the humans, they froze completely. Chun understood why. He and his team were wearing standard away mission gear, light combat armor, sidearms on their hips, tactical boots that seemed to shake the deck with every step. To a species that had evolved without predators, the humans must have looked like monsters from a nightmare. Chun held up his empty hands and spoke slowly, letting his translator convert his words to Velith Common. "We come in peace. We received your distress call and came to help. My name is Commander David Chen. Is anyone injured? Do you need medical assistance?" The Velith exchanged glances. After a long moment, one of them stepped forward. She was slightly taller than the others, and her skin was shifting to a more controlled blue color. This was probably their leader. "I am Commander Salus," she said through her own translator. "I command this vessel. We have some injuries, but nothing life-threatening. We are very grateful for your assistance." Chum nodded and gestured for his medical officer to step forward. "Dr. Yamamoto will examine your wounded if you permit it. She's very skilled." The Velith looked at the doctor with obvious nervousness. Yamamoto was a small woman with a gentle face, but even she seemed to intimidate them. Salus eventually nodded her permission, and Yamamoto followed two Velith crew members deeper into the ship. "Commander Chun," Salus said, her large eyes studying him with a mixture of fear and fascination. "Your ship destroyed 3 Kreth warships in less than 2 minutes. I have watched the sensor recordings multiple times, and I still cannot believe what I saw. How is this possible?" Chun considered his response carefully. He did not want to frighten the Velith further, but he also did not want to lie to them. "Humans have been fighting wars for a very long time," he said. "Our homeworld is dangerous, and we evolved to deal with threats. When we reached the stars, we brought those instincts with us. Our ships are designed to fight. Our weapons are designed to kill. It is not something we are proud of, but it is part of who we are." Salus nodded slowly. "Your distress call mentioned that your ship accelerated at 40 gravities. Our fastest vessels can barely manage 8 without killing the crew. How do your bodies survive such forces? Our bones are denser than yours, Chun explained. Our muscles are stronger. Our bodies evolved to handle heavy gravity and sudden impacts. What would kill a Velith is merely uncomfortable for us. Uncomfortable, Salis repeated, her skin flickering with a color that the translator identified as disbelief. You find 40 gravities merely uncomfortable. We have acceleration couches and special suits that help, Chun admitted. But yes, most humans can survive extreme forces that would be fatal to other species. It is one of the reasons we are called Deathworlders. The Velith commander gestured for Chun to follow her to the ship's small common area. The other human team members spread out to assess damage and provide assistance to the crew. Chun was careful to keep his movements slow and non-threatening as he walked beside Salis. I must confess something, Salis said. When I sent the distress signal, I did not truly believe anyone would answer. The outer reach is far from the patrol routes of the Galactic Compact. I included the frequencies used by your species only out of desperation. The Velith have been told to avoid contact with humans. Your species is classified as extremely dangerous. I know, Chun said. We have heard the reports. Many species in the galaxy consider us monsters. After today, I understand why. Salis's skin shifted to a thoughtful purple. Your weapons, your speed, your willingness to engage a superior force without hesitation. If you chose to conquer, I do not think anyone could stop you. Chum stopped walking and turned to face the Velith commander. He wanted her to understand what he was about to say. Commander, humans are dangerous. That is true. We have fought countless wars among ourselves. We have committed terrible acts of violence throughout our history. But we have also learned something important. Violence is not an end in itself. It is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or evil. Salis listened without interrupting. We did not come here today because we wanted to kill Kreth, Chun continued. We came because we heard people in trouble and we wanted to help. That instinct is just as much a part of human nature as our capacity for violence. We are predators, yes, but we are also protectors. We remember what it was like to be prey, and we do not like to see it happen to others. You risk your lives for strangers, Salis said. Species you have never met. People who might have nothing to offer you in return. Of course, Chun said. What else would we do? The Velith commander was silent for a long moment. Her skin cycled through several colors that the translator could not identify. Finally, she spoke again. Your species is strange, Commander Chun. You are the most dangerous creatures I have ever encountered, but you use that danger to protect the weak. You are capable of terrible destruction, but you choose to help those who cannot help themselves. I do not fully understand you, but I believe I have misjudged your kind. Chun smiled, a gesture that showed his teeth and made the Velith visible flinch. He made a mental note to avoid smiling for the rest of the visit. Commander Salis, humans are complicated. We are capable of great good and great evil. But I would like to think that most of us, when we hear someone calling for help, choose to answer. 6 hours after the battle, Captain Maria Santos stood in the observation lounge of the Whisper of Stars. The damaged Velith ship was limping toward a nearby station for repairs, escorted by the Relentless. Through the wide viewports, she could see the stars of the outer reach stretching out to infinity. Commander Salis stood beside her, holding a small container of Velith nutrient fluid. Santos had a cup of coffee in her hand. The two commanders had been talking for over an hour, sharing information about their respective species and the events of the day. I have contacted the Velith High Council, Salis said. I have told them everything that happened. They were very surprised to learn that humans answered our distress call. Santos nodded. I imagine they were. Your species has been avoiding us for a long time. Yes. Salus's skin shifted to a regretful gray. The early survey teams that visited your world were terrified by what they found. The predators, the extreme environment, the violence of your own societies. They recommended avoiding all contact until we could better understand your species. And now? Now I am recommending a change in policy, Salus said. The Galactic Compact has been wrong about humans. We saw your capacity for violence and assumed that was all you were. We did not consider that the same strength that makes you dangerous might also make you compassionate. Santos raised an eyebrow. Compassionate? That is not a word most species use to describe us. Perhaps it should be, Salus replied. Her skin shifted to a warm blue that the translator identified as trust. Your ship could have ignored our distress call. The Kreth were not your enemies. We are not your allies. You had no obligation to help us, and doing so put your crew at significant risk. It was not that risky, Santos said. The Kreth are pirates, not soldiers. They do not know how to fight a real warship. You destroyed 3 of them in 90 seconds. Like I said, not that risky. Salus made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. You speak of such violence so casually. It is disturbing and comforting at the same time. Santos set down her coffee and turned to face the Velith commander. Commander Salus, let me tell you something about humans. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Everything was dangerous, from the animals to the weather to each other. We survived because we learned to work together. When a predator attacked one member of the tribe, the others fought back. When someone was hungry, the group shared food. When someone was hurt, others took care of them. That sounds like a difficult way to live, Salus observed. It was, Santos agreed. But it taught us something important. Survival is not just about being strong enough to fight. It is about being strong enough to protect. The instinct that makes us dangerous also makes us loyal. The same aggression that lets us kill our enemies also drives us to defend our friends. Salus considered this for a moment. And we are your friends now? We have only just met. Santos smiled, making sure to keep her lips closed over her teeth. You called for help, and we answered. That makes us friends in my book. The Velith commander reached out with one delicate tendril and gently touched Santos's scarred hand. It was a gesture of trust among the Velith, Santos knew. A sign of acceptance and connection. Captain Santos, I believe the galaxy has misunderstood your species. We saw the violence and the danger, and we assumed that was all there was to see. We did not look deeper. We did not consider that a species forged in such a harsh world might develop not just the capacity to harm, but also the drive to protect. Santos gently closed her fingers around the offered tendril. Most species see us as monsters. They are not entirely wrong. We are capable of terrible things. But we are also capable of choosing when and how to use that capacity. Most of us choose to use it for good. I believe you, Salus said. Her skin shifted to a color that the translator could not fully interpret. It seemed to combine trust, gratitude, and something like hope. I will tell my government what I have learned today. I will recommend that the Velith reach out to humanity. Perhaps we can learn from each other. I would like that, Santos said. The galaxy is big and dangerous. It would be nice to have more friends in it. They stood together in silence for a while, watching the stars. The universe stretched out before them, vast and ancient and indifferent to the small creatures that crawled across its face. But in that moment, something had changed. 2 species had met for the first time under the worst possible circumstances. One had been afraid, helpless, waiting to die. The other had been violent, dangerous, feared by most of the galaxy. But instead of destruction, there had been rescue. Instead of fear, there had been the beginning of trust. Commander, Santos said eventually, when you report to your High Council, Tell them something for me. What is that? Santis looked out at the stars, her expression thoughtful. Tell them that humans are not what they expected. Tell them that we are dangerous, yes, but we choose how to use that danger. Tell them that when we hear someone calling for help, we come. Not because we have to, but because that is who we are. Salis nodded. I will tell them. And I think, in time, they will understand. The Relentless continued its escort duty, its weapons quiet, its shields down. The Whisper of Stars limped alongside, wounded but alive. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a message was being sent to the Galactic Compact. The Deathworlders had answered a call for help. They had come not to conquer, but to protect. And perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy would learn that the most dangerous species in existence could also be the most compassionate. The stars burned on, cold and ancient. But between them, a small spark of friendship had been kindled. And sometimes, that was enough.